All right, Mets fans, we are at the point of the offseason where the question is no longer if the New York Mets are going to bring in a new ace to headline this rotation. It is when and who is that name going to be. On this video, we are talking about David Stearns and the New York Mets pitching plans to revamp this rotation for 2026 and beyond. And before we fully get into this video to break it down and talk about one free agent target in particular, as well as the realistic approach that David Stearns might take, make sure to smash those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below about any names that you hear on this video or any other targets that you would like me to talk about on a future video. All right, we have to start off with one name, one free agent that is going to generate a lot of buzz and has already generated a lot of buzz given his previous team, his previous performances, and also him attending the GM meetings and really being motivated to seek this new deal that he is going to get. That is 8-year veteran and longtime Houston Astro, Framber Valdez. Now, it definitely helps that he is a lefty because lefty aces are definitely a hot commodity in this league. And you can tell with the projected market value from Spotrac that he is in for a major payday and a long-term deal at that. Now, the common theme here that we have to talk about when we discuss David Stearns' plan for signing free agent pitchers is the age. Framber Valdez is 31. He'll be turning 32 years old in this month of November. And that clearly goes against the established philosophy of what David Stearns has shown us, both in his days as a Milwaukee Brewer executive, as well as his first couple of seasons and his tenure with the New York Mets. But I'm very curious to see how aggressive they will pursue Framber Valdez as opposed to other teams that could be in on him. And if I had to give you a realistic outlook in David Stearns' approach as it relates to Valdez, I would have to imagine that it is unlikely the Mets go down this route with him. The projected market value already at 32 years old is still a 6-year deal worth just about $200 million. It is a steep price point, but definitely a lot of value coming in return for whoever lands Valdez this offseason. Back-to-back All-Star in 2022 and 2023 with the Astros. Most of the numbers did go up for Valdez, including the innings pitched. The ERA went up. The walks and hits per innings pitched went up. The strikeout rate went down by just a little bit. And he did have a little bit more walk issues, which contributed to the increased whip. But when you talk about production and durability, 176 in the third and 192 innings pitched is exactly what you want to see out of a guy that you're going to pay to be your ace. And I think that any team that lands Valdez is going to be lucky that they do so. And I really hope the Mets put their best foot forward here in this market for Valdez. I just don't think it's going to happen given the plethora of other options. Maybe cheaper options, right? And I don't want to put that on David Stearns, but we have seen historically that that is the route that he prefers, but also younger starting pitching options and maybe a little bit more controllable. But we'll see in the next slide how that may not be the case. And we could be talking about another flyer 1-year prove it deal. But in any case, Framber Valdez is going to get a payday. I don't think he's going to be a New York Met. Unfortunately, he's going to have a lot of teams after him. And I think that maybe some teams could have been scared off with some of the drama that he was, I guess, faced with in Houston. We all know that game where him and his catcher just simply couldn't get on the same page, and he ended up deliberately throwing a pitch, right? I think it's pretty well documented that he deliberately threw the wrong pitch to cross his catcher up, and the catcher was just kind of putting his arms up in the air like, what are you doing? And this was mid-game, by the way. And so I don't know if that's going to scare the Mets off. I'm not sure how many teams that's going to really scare off, but there are some concerns there with that sort of chemistry. But nonetheless, the numbers here are undeniable with Framber Valdez. So that is Framber Valdez. I'm sure I'll be talking about him once more, maybe even twice more if things get a little bit more serious between the Mets and Valdez. I just don't think that's going to be what the Mets come away with in terms of pitching this offseason. But let's talk about the realistic scenario, and let's talk about two names in particular that I do think that the Mets will try to pursue, and they could even come away with both. And it wouldn't be, I guess, the worst thing in the world. And we've already heard about one of these names and the Mets being linked to them. And here you go. The two pitchers are Dylan Cease and Tatsuya Imai, who will be posted this winter coming over from Japan. We did talk about Imai on the hot stove with Rob and myself a couple of days ago. A very interesting free agent target when he does get posted. We'll have a plethora of suitors. I'm sure the San Francisco Giants will be in on the Imai market, as well as the New York Mets and a handful of other teams. But a mid-90s fastball, a 6-pitch arsenal, 6-pitch mix, has a lot of good put-away stuff, is coming off of his best season over there in Japan, and now he is in for a payday as well. I do believe he's 27 years old going into this next 2026 season. He's definitely not going to be a number one right away, or maybe not even a number two, but definitely someone that you pay with that kind of upside that will be headlining the middle of a rotation, let's say a number three or a number four, which is also what the Mets coincidentally need. They don't just need one pitcher, and they can't just come away with one pitcher this offseason. But maybe the headliner here, and I'm going out on a limb and saying this, but I can see this as a realistic possibility for the New York Mets, is Dylan Cease. And he's also, going back to his White Sox days, a player that we've talked about for quite some time for the Mets to try to pursue via trade, and nothing ever materialized. But now he is on the open market. He is going to be seeking a new deal. And given some of the numbers and the struggles that he posted with the Padres last season, there are a lot of rumors out there, pure speculation at this point, but I can see it happening where he's open to a 1-year prove it deal, or maybe a 2-year deal with some extra insurance and an opt out after the first year. He posted an ERA that was about 4.55. He had a lot more walk issues in 2025 than he did in 2024. And like I mentioned, the numbers were just elevated all across the board for Dylan Cease. We know at his peak, he can definitely be an ace of any rotation. We just haven't seen that for quite some time, from Dylan Cease. And, as I talk about the Mets' necessity and David Stearns' necessity of changing up his philosophy and addressing the pitching, Dylan Cease is not really the number one target or number one candidate that I would pursue if I wanted to build a rotation like it should be in the New York market and trying to compete with the Dodgers for a World Series. I think that there are a lot of other sure options. I think Valdez would be a better option in terms of production and solidified production, because you know what you're going to get from him. He's also consistent. Dylan Cease isn't consistent, but as I mentioned, David Stearns does like these sort of reclamation projects. Now, I don't think Dylan Cease, and I actually know Dylan Cease is not a reclamation project to the extent of a, Sean Manaea or Luis Severino. He's much higher and much more skilled than those guys. But this is probably what David Stearns is going to do, if I had to imagine. And I won't get into the nitty-gritty numbers of what Dylan Cease has posted and what he could be looking for in terms of AAV. I'll save that for a future video. But if I had to guess, this is my realistic outlook of what David Stearns could be cooking up for this rotation. You get a potential number one to pair with Manaea and maybe Senga if he makes it and doesn't get traded. I know that we're all not looking forward to that. I think that we all know Senga's time in New York probably should be up, but the upside of Dylan Cease, and to go along with that, you shore up the middle of the rotation to go alongside Peterson and Clay Holmes and get Tatsuya Imai. I think both of these guys, the uncertainty is definitely there, but the upside is also definitely there that David Stearns could look for in the value of these contracts. So Mets fans, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Cease, Imai, and Framber Valdez. Would you pursue Valdez, even though he's 32 years old and probably looking for a 5 to 6 year deal? Let me know in the comments section. Hit those thumbs up buttons and subscribe to the channel. See you all in the next video. Let's go Mets.